Good evening, and welcome to Emmanuel Presbyterian Church's Wednesday Night Reflections. My name is Dave Wright, and in addition to being one of the clergy who is a part of the Emmanuel community, I'm also the university chaplain at the University of Puget Sound, just down the street from IPC. I'm glad you found this recording and our church community, whether you're a longtime member or you found us through YouTube or Facebook or the church's website. Know that you're welcome in this space, both virtual and hopefully soon in person, where we're committed to the inclusion and welcome for all people and God's love for those who are on the margins of society. Well, that's my framing of who we are as a community. I think you'll find that Emmanuel is a place of warmth, of respect, of justice, and of inclusion. It's a joy to be a part of this community, and whatever your relationship, it's good to be with you in this virtual way tonight. This is part of a series of Wednesday evening reflections that several leaders and community members are offering up to keep us connected in the middle of the week through this time of isolation, distance, loneliness. I'm grateful to Pastor Tad and to Debbie and Johnny and all those who helped make this happen, as well as to my friends and colleagues Beth Prevo, Jenny Rake Morona, and others who are part of this series. Over the next few minutes, I want to invite us into some reflection on this Earth Day, in this Easter season, on intentionality. As we move further through these weeks following Easter, how does our ability to name even short-term intentionality about our faith, the world, our embodiment, shape how we engage in following the way of Jesus? This is a season that for me is critical to our faith, not because of magic or pizzazz, but because it invites us to think about what it means to follow, to be part of, to relate as we find new life in the stories of Jesus and in the life of the communities where we have been fed and nurtured and seek to feed and nurture others. I'll begin and end with a poem, as is not surprising for those that know me, that frame this conversation around earth and nature and Easter and our intentions for it. And I begin with a poem from Linda Hogan's collection, Savings, which I realize is backwards on your screen. This is germinal, and it feels right for this season as things are growing and springing forth, and in which we talk about life coming from the earth itself in the empty tomb. Germinal by Linda Hogan. Downstairs, things are growing. Downstairs to the cellar, guinea eggs have quickened, and grapes have turned to wine. Lye is burning through its tub, mere potatoes with pale shoots, and the molds are dividing in jellies beneath wax. That underworld beneath the house with its bad family. That world below drumming like old women and blood stirring in the neck. The older world, with its pale, thin roots of grass and all things saved and growing. Linda Hogan. The world around us is growing. Our lives are moving forward, even in ways we could never predict, things we couldn't have anticipated. In this season, I want to begin by looking back at the start of my year. And for me, the year is an academic cycle, so by start of the year, August, September. Well, the intentions that we set, that I set then and that I'm inviting us to consider tonight, may not have the patient roots and slow and often moldy growth of the basement cellar that Hogan describes. The things that we draw into our intentions come from our roots, come from the places that form us and shape us, that are our deep stories and histories. As we try to consider how to live those things out where we are now, in the world, in the communities, in the places that we inhabit. At the start of this academic year, we began a new program called Taking Time. It's something that we created to try to slow things down, to not just have speaker and event and program and ritual, but to pause and be present to each other in a secular but deeply spiritual way, with silence, with reflection on the past few weeks, and by inviting those present to set their intentions down, either in writing or in their hearts. How do they want to be? How do they want to journey in the weeks ahead? At our very first one of these, back in, I want to say early September, maybe late August, but I think early September, I invited us to not look at the next few weeks, but look at the academic year ahead, September through May. 7 months ago, I passed out Post-its, not unlike these Post-its, and invited everyone to take 1 or 2 or 3 and write 1 or 2 or 3 reflections, words, phrases that set intentions, how they want to be over the arc of the 9 months of our school year. And to keep those, to share them if they wanted, but to find ways to hold them in front of themselves, to hold the commitments or the intentions or the hopes in a place where they could be remembered. I chose to take the 3 that I wrote and stick them to the edge of my work computer so that every day that I was at work, I would be able to remember how I was hoping to be, at least on that sunny, warm, together on couches around a candle afternoon in September. I wrote 3 Post-its. First one had 1 word, joy. The second had 2 words, be present. The third had 3 words, change, change, change. These 3 phrases, these 3 Post-its have journeyed with me 7 months, and whatever I was meaning at the time, those intentions have been challenged, but have also challenged me in my own journey through my work, through my relationships, through this incredibly weird time where nothing is as we would want it. Intentionality has become an important theme for me, and as I've talked with others over these past several weeks, the onset of this new weird world of physical distancing and social isolation and staying at home has led many of us to need a different type of intentionality than we're used to. Perhaps one of the sillier examples. Each morning when I come downstairs to go to work, I put on my work flip-flops. Not normally my work attire in Tacoma, but for me that's a differentiation that when I'm working, I'm not wearing my socks. I'm not wearing the things that I'm comfortable lounging around in. Just a little bit, usually still t-shirts and shorts. But that silly intention to say this matters has helped me keep in mind that things are still moving forward, that life is still going on, and even though I'm not in my cozy office in Wheelock Student Center, the work of being part of a community continues. On a more serious level, much more than flip-flops, there's a new degree of needed intention for spiritual practices and plans. New habits are emerging, new technologies that most of us had never had to use, especially for faith-related things before, are being learned. The closures and limits on parks and outdoors mean that we're having to rediscover nature and creation and connect to the earth and the sky, not at Tahoma, not on the Olympics, not on the Sound, but in our backyards and around our blocks. This all strikes me as part of the work of Easter. We talk a great deal in Lent, in the weeks leading up to Easter, about the need for preparation, repentance, turning, beginning again, reflection. This year, more than ever, I'm seeing the counterpoint to that being in Easter, with the need to deal with intentionality, with practice, with commitments not to pass or fail, but to be present and to be intentional about how we journey. The early followers of Jesus had to make choices in those chaotic days following their experience of resurrection, set new ways of relating and connecting that hadn't been needed when Jesus was guiding and molding them in person, trying to live into the pain and beauty and chaos and hope of the days and weeks that followed, reading the stories of this season, Easter, through the lens of our moment as individuals in this bizarre situation, as part of Emmanuel, as we would have preferred to be gathering with our pastor, our new pastor, Tad Monroe, in person, to be considering how it is that we could walk together in a time that has been disrupted beyond all of our normal rhythms and preferences. This challenges me. I imagine this challenges many of us to consider how we want to practice our faith, our relationships, our values, our community in this time. So, in a moment, I'll invite us into just a minute of silence to consider our intentions. If you have a Post-it handy or a piece of paper, please write them down. The beauty of video is that you can do that later if you want. You can rewind and catch the instructions again. Technology has its silver linings. But I want to pose this through some questions to consider as you find, look for, open yourselves to what intention or intentions might be important for you this Easter. Do we name intentions that are particular to different parts of our lives? One for self, one for church, one for world? Or do we find intentions that integrate the different arcs of our stories, our lives? Both work, but in this time where so much is disconnected, encourage and invite you to look for intentions that weave yourself together, that draw closer who you are, that can move through all those aspects of your life: home, self, family, work, faith, to find coherence and to see yourself as a whole and unified person. Are our intentions able to flow with changes that we cannot control? Thinking of mine for the year, the way things have gone, joy has been hard to maintain at times. I really wish I hadn't written change 3 times. I feel like I've invoked something on myself there. And being present means something entirely different in this era where cattails wander through sermons, where we can't be present, where we can't hug or connect, where our griefs and joys feel so remote from one another. But those broad general words, those frames that can be helpful for so much of our lives, those have moved with me through this ridiculous year. And while they do not mean, I don't think, anything like what I intended them to be back in September, the fact that I'm now reflecting on change and joy and presence when all the world has changed has helped me to continue an intentional journey through what is it that I'm doing in this world? What does it mean for me to be who I am and who I'm becoming as the world evolves with or without me? So what words or plans could ride with you through the weeks ahead? The third question, recognizing that today is Earth Day and that the season of Easter literally speaks to us of new life coming forth through the symbol of the empty tomb. How do our intentions for the remaining weeks of Easter honor our relationship with creation, with the earth, with a faith that takes seriously what Barbara Brown Taylor calls the luminous web? How can we take these days of Easter in this unusual, unprecedented time to be intentional about the ways that our faith and the natural world are woven together and can honor each other? With those questions, and whatever else is on your heart, I invite us into a moment of silence to reflect individually on the intentions, the hopes, the paths that you want to dream for yourself over these next few weeks. Again, write them on a Post-it, keep them in your heart. Hold them in some way that you can revisit them as the days go forward. So I invite us into just a few moments of silence, knowing that the writing and reflecting may take much longer than this. Will you join me in that silence? Again, take the time that you need now, later, to flesh out that word or those few words that you might take as intentions. And if you choose not to, that's fine. What this is about is how we live, not having the right words or the right practice. I move towards closing, having had us share that reflection space and my own thoughts on intention, earth, and the season of Easter, with an invitation for what to do with them. Whether you've written them down, have just thought about it, bouncing around in the back of your brain or in your heart, held deeply. Consider how you might want to keep these thoughts with you, these intentions with you in the weeks ahead. You could take it further with a small group, family member, your own personal reflections, or writing, or drawing, or painting. But come back to them. Don't let this be just a moment. This is part of our journey in all of its facets together. Take a look in a few weeks, and how have your intentions shaped you? How have they been shaped by the world we can't control? How have you changed what you meant to be what you need? There's no one right way to do this. There's no goals to pursue. This is not a checklist or an A+ you're trying to get. This isn't a household project to do while you're stuck at home with COVID swirling around us. Be graceful with yourself. Live with these, struggle with these, but let however you do or do not participate in them or fulfill them, because they shouldn't be fulfilled, how you live into them, be exactly perfect for who you are and what you need in this time and place. The poem I close with speaks to the intentionality of looking for the divine in nature. It is from John Philip Newell, one of our great Celtic theologians that has shaped many of us at the Emmanuel community. And it's one that I first encountered as part of preparing for the trip that Beth Prevo and I helped facilitate for about 14 of us last year. It captures for me the intentionality of awareness, particularly in the context of the wonder of nature. So this is John Philip Newell, A Prayer for the Life of the World. And I send us forth back into our Wednesday nights with this. Whichever way we turn, O God, there is your face. In the light of the moon and patterns of stars, in scarred mountain rifts and ancient groves, in mighty seas and the creatures of the deep. Whichever way we turn, O God, there is your face. In the light of eyes we love, in the salt of tears we have tasted, in weathered countenances east and west, in the soft skin glow of the child everywhere. Whichever way we turn, O God, there is your face among us. As we journey through Easter, as we seek intention and focus and rhythm in our lives, may we find the face of God in the nature and the world that surrounds us, in the ones we love, our friends and family and community with Emmanuel and beyond, and in ourselves as blessed and beloved children of God, made in all of our wonder and messiness and imperfection, be loved by the face of God. Thank you for joining us tonight. Hope to be with you as part of other celebrations, meditations, reflections, and worship over the coming weeks, and especially in person when we're able to again. Have a great night. All God's people said together, amen.